Let's go. Streaming data free on the MTN network in South Africa.
This is Omnisport.
T's and C's apply.
Gary Blem has more Tour de France yellow jerseys and stage wins to his name than any other South African or African for that matter. As one of the top bicycle mechanics in the world, Gary has wrenched for Chris Froome, Daryl Impey, Barloworld, Team Sky, and the great Mark Cavendish. Gary, Cavendish rode his last race before going into retirement this weekend. Does he go down as the greatest sprinter of all time in your view?
Yes, most definitely. I spent several years with Cavendish, and you know, it's going to take quite a bit to beat that feat by any sprinter. He's a sprinter of a generation.
And what do you think separates him from everyone? Because some people can win. You can win the genes. You can win that lottery. You can obviously they've all got these incredible teams. Guys like yourself. What made him different? Getting to be close to him for you.
Well, I think what set him apart was obviously the team that he was in. It was built around him. He had a great sprint train. He had guys like Tony Martin, ex-world time trial champion, pulling on the front in the last 2 to 3 kilometers. You know, nobody could come around Tony at that stage. And then you got Berg Grapsch, also ex-world time trial champion. You've got Mark Renshaw, the one of the smartest lead-out guys in the world, I think, in the history of the sport. That guy would guide Mark in the last 2 kilometers to the finish. You would say what side of the road they need to be on, left, right, how to take the roundabouts, and then drop him off at the right spot. And Cav would then finish it off. And I think it was just a combination of factors there. And once he gets going, once he starts winning, he's unstoppable. He's unbeatable, really. It's something awesome to see.
And you worked with him at Team HTC and became his personal mechanic. And when you moved to Sky in 2012, when he moved to Sky in 2012, you went with him. And from what we read and have researched, he's an absolute stickler for detail. There was a story about him at a team camp when he spent 2 hours working on the position of his stem. What is your relationship like, and how demanding could working with him be for you?
To give you an indication, the one day we had a bodyguard in HTC, and he came running to me and said, "Cav, he's going crazy. Somebody's messed with his position." So all the mechanics disappeared. Everybody ran away. I was busy at that stage, I think, with Peter Velets and Tony Martin. And Cav rocked up and was like, "Who changed my stem?" And I said to him, No, I didn't change it. I just put a green sticker on it, since you've got the green jersey. And he's like, "Oh, that's so nice," and super grateful. But I mean, it just shows you how volatile, like, don't touch his bike, you know. So I mean, he would do some drastic changes, like in the morning, 20 minutes before the race, he would come to me and say, "Raise my saddle 1 centimeter." You know, that's unheard of. The guys would normally raise their saddle by 1 millimeter or 2 max. But he would raise it 1 to 1.5 centimeters. And what really cracked me a bit was he won the previous day on that position. Why mess with the position? And then he would suffer that day with a saddle that's 1.5 centimeters too high. And then the day after, he would win again. And then he would change the position again, and it was constant.
Quite the story, and these great ones are always obsessed. If you are just joining us this morning, Gary Blem, a man who has worked across the world in the cycling scene with Barloworld, Team Sky, and then, of course, a man who is on his way out, a great cyclist, Mark Cavendish. Kev, what you got for Gary?
Yeah, I remember Cav was like that. When he came to South Africa to ride, he actually had a 49 centimeter specialized S-Works, and the reason he rode that is because he said the torque in the bottom bracket, he could take more torque in the bottom bracket. But when he came to South Africa to ride, I interviewed him, and when I asked him about you, and I did specifically, he described you as the best mechanic he ever worked with, and said you're one of the best human beings he'd ever got to know in his career. Now, I know you're a good egg, but was there a soft side to Cavendish we didn't see, and why did he like you so much?
Because I was the only mechanic standing by waiting for him. You know, Cav was very volatile in his earlier days, as he was coming up, where I don't want to say he was aggressive. He would throw a tantrum now and again if things didn't go his way. And he put a lot of pressure on himself, and as much pressure that he put on himself, he put on the team around him. So if he wanted to win a certain stage, everybody knew about it. Everybody felt the pressure, including himself, So he'd like to share it. And I think I was the only guy standing near the bus when he would get out the bus. So I learned to deal with him in that sense. I mean, I had a scenario in Tour of Qatar with him where we had 7 riders in the race. 6 were on head wheels and 1 was on zip wheels. And Cav was the guy on zip wheels. But we were in a pickup truck and the cooler box was next to me and there was no space for additional wheels. I could take 1 pair of wheels with me with the cooler box. So I chose a pair of head wheels since we had 6 guys on head wheels and 1 guy on zip. Obviously, Cav was on zip. So Cav gets a flat tire. So you can imagine. So I put this head wheel on his bike and he goes crazy. So he's like, my brakes are rubbing. And I look outside the window leading out the car. I'm like, no, man, there's 5mm clearance on each side. And he just couldn't ride his bike. He was so upset. And then at the end of the stage, he came to me and like, don't you ever put another head wheel on my bike again, And there was nothing wrong with the head wheels. Don't get me wrong. There was nothing wrong. It was just a mental thing for him, And I said, well, I didn't have much of a choice. Yeah, I've got 6 guys on head and 1 on zip. So like those instances. But then, he's a really soft guy. Like if he'd win a stage, he would come and hug every single person in the team. Every single person. He would rock up at a race and bring us chocolates. I guess maybe I was too skinny then or something. But so there's a different side to him. And I think just the other day, not the other day, about 2 years ago, he was in Quick Step, and he started winning again. And I could see his personality changing. So up until that point, Cav was a super nice, friendly guy, easygoing, not the vicious Cav from the earlier days that I was working with. But I could see this changing in him, because the killer instinct was coming out again. And I went to the mechanic that was working on his bike and I said to him, listen, my friend, be very careful, hey? The old Cav is coming back. And he's like, no, Gary, he's such a nice guy. He's so easy to work with. And the following day went viral of him slamming his bike on the ground, saying, my headset is tight. You need to loosen my headset. I told you to do it. And he threw his toys. And I said, I told you, I warned you, the old Cav is back, and I think that's the way he deals with stress. You'll see days where Cav would win. He would go to the car maybe 5 or 6 times and change his cleat position. Just for the hell of, I don't know why. He'd move it forward, backwards, sideways. He would just play with his cleats during the race. The peloton was doing 60 k's an hour and he's at the car adjusting his shoes. But he'd win,
Yeah.
So it's just the way he deals with it. I guess it's how he psychs himself up, the way some, I guess, bodybuilders will slap themselves in the face or something. He just does it in a different way. But, yeah, I mean, he's a mean machine. He's a born sprinter, that's for sure, and there's passion. My first encounter with him in 2007 during the Tour de France was in London. He crashed and he just stopped pedaling. He literally stopped pedaling, and it was like, I think, stage 1 or 2. And I eventually said to him, come, Cav, you need to ride. The peloton's going away. This is only, I think, stage 2 of the Tour de France. Don't give up now. He really stopped. He was so passionate about wanting to win that day that he didn't care about the rest of the tour. So, and that's his character. And I think this is what's made him special. At his age, to even continue and do the Project 35, to try and beat the hottest sprinters in this era is unbelievable. And you saw how he won it. That was one of the best sprints I've seen by him.
And you've worked with 2 of the greats. I mean, fellow African Chris Froome, of course. For us, yes, we'll still claim him. What's it like working with Froome versus the great Cavendish? I mean, they're both great in their own right.
Well, so at the end of 2012, it was quite a volatile season because we had Wiggins that won the Tour de France and Froome was second. Cavendish was the world champion. And there was a lot of tension that year in the Tour de France between Wiggins, Froome, and Cavendish, because Cavendish wasn't treated special because he was the world champion, because we had just too many leaders in the team. And you know, at the end of 2012, Cav decided to leave the team because I think he wasn't treated the way he felt he should be treated. Like I said, Sky was just stuck with leaders, so he left. So when he left, I thought, okay, thank goodness I don't have that pressure in my life anymore. And in November, Froome asked me to be his personal mechanic, and I was like, oh, shit. Oh, sorry.
Are you allowed to say it?
And I'm like, yeah, we go again, you know, and we did. That's it. Just so the difference between the two of them, Chris is extremely polite. Chris will like, please could you adjust my saddle 1 millimeter? Please can you do this? Please can you do that? Cav wasn't as polite. And, you know, I think just they're completely different. You know, GC versus Sprinter. Sprinter, everything's down to 1 day, a single day, where GC is prolonged, which basically prolonged your agony. So with Cav, if you had to change your wheel for him in a race, you know, there's helicopters, there's 20 motorbikes filming you. It's crazy. But it's that moment. It's that day. But with Froome, especially when he takes the jersey early on in the Grand Tour, you've got the cameras and the media on you the whole way through. I actually said to Froome, man, this is ridiculous. Stop taking the jersey so early. Let's just wait, you know, for the latter part of the race, because you put too much pressure on everyone, you know, including your team. But he didn't care. He wanted if he could get the jersey day one, he'd get it and try and keep it. You know, that was his way of racing. But yeah, both very special. Both. I actually asked Froome one day, well, why don't you stop riding? You know, you've made enough money. You can retire on what you've done, and you know, you've accomplished a lot. This was after the second Tour de France victory. He said, no, Gary, I think I can win 6 more. I want to make history. And for him, it was about putting his name down in the record books. It wasn't about the money, you know. So it's and I think Cav, look what he did. It's about making history. He's the same. He was also wealthy. You know, actually, the last, I think, 4 years, Cav was riding on an entry-level salary. He wasn't riding on millions, you know. It was just he wanted to race and he wanted to prove the point he could break the record. Yeah. And I think teams didn't really want to invest in because he was obviously getting old in the career, and there were up-and-coming sprinters that were as fast or faster than Cav. But he proved them wrong. He did it. And that's really special.
That is special, and your career has been special, Gary. I've got 30 seconds for you. What are you going to be up to over the next year? I mean, a hell of a career you've had already. Is the fire and the passion still burning inside of you to keep going?
No, definitely. You know, currently I'm in IPT, and it's not a big winning team. I forgot what it feels like to win a lot, you know, and this team is now... it's been challenging, but the focus, you know, after this season, they've had a hell of a season actually, and I'm contributing to the team in a sense that I've got a lot of experience and I'm helping them to be on the right track and become a winning team. So yeah, I've been fortunate to work with the top people in this industry. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I don't believe in coincidences. Now, this is a personal philosophy. I don't believe in anything just happens. They picked you. There's a very good reason for that. And as a fellow African, I'm like, that's awesome. I didn't even know. You know, we had the great Rory Byrne back in the day. Some guy called Michael Schumacher. Him and Byrne rocked together. A South African. Now we're talking about Cavendish. We're talking about Froome, and we're talking about Gary Blem. A South African right from here, which means it's possible for you. It's possible for us, and we love that for you, man. Keep rocking and keep winning and keep flying the South African flag high.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, we got Louis Meintjes, and we got a couple of guys, and it's nice to see. I'm super proud when I see the South Africans, and even the guys just working behind the scenes on the teams.
We love it.
Fantastic. Eh?
We love it. Gary, appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Take care, guys.
Love it. That's awesome. I mean, you very rarely do get to work with two greats. I mean, to get to work with two... all-timers.
I first met Gary. He had a spinning studio in Boksburg, and he was my spinning instructor, and that was back 25 years ago. And that's how I used to go 5 o'clock in the morning. He used to train me.
God, he truly has done it from Boksburg to Paris.
To Pretoria to Paris.
That's the story Hollywood needs to make. You leave Boksburg and you are Chris Froome's personal, like that is proper. He's gone through the mire. He started, Drake wrote a song, started from the bottom, now we're here. He wrote about Gary Blem. Fantastic. Absolutely love that. Coming up in a bit, in 60 seconds, it's the last international break until March 2025 in the football.
Listen live and on demand.
Welcome to Omnisport.